Good morning, and thank you for joining me for this midweek reflection for Holy Week from Holy Saviour Church in Hitchin. A few weeks ago, I went to see a production of Jesus Christ Superstar. It's only the second time that I've seen it performed, but I do think it's a really interesting little musical production. And if you ever go and see it yourself, it's worth bearing in mind that, notwithstanding the title, in as much as it tells the story of Jesus, it's inviting us to think afresh about the personality of Judas Iscariot. I think Judas is a really fascinating figure. And I guess for most of us, we come into the Christian faith simply seeing Judas as the one who was the betrayer of Jesus. And that's all he is, perhaps that's all he can be. That's probably how most of us are taught to see him and understand him. But I wonder, is that really all that is to Judas? And is betrayal and unique and exclusive to him? It's worth noting that across the four Christian Gospels, Judas is mentioned 20 times. And 9 times he's described as a traitor, the one who betrays Jesus. But also 9 times he's identified as one of the 12, one of the chosen, a disciple. In other words, he's not one or other of these things. He's absolutely both at the same time. It's interesting when Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples look at each other. They're uncertain of whom he is speaking. They don't all look at Judas. They don't all kind of say straight away, "Well, I never did like or trust that dodgy, flaky character. I always knew he was bad news." And their uncertainty means that it really could be any of them, and what's more, they know it. Maybe they're aware of their own betrayals, and they're wondering if this is the moment when they're about to be found out. One of the reasons I have a bit of a soft spot for Judas is that I also struggle with Jesus' life and faith. And I know that a lot of the time I live as less than who I could be, less than who I know myself to be deep down. I want to think that there's more to Judas than just a betrayer, because I want to know that about myself too. I want to see Judas as more than his greatest ever failure, his biggest ever mistake, or the worst day of his life, because I want to see me as more than those things as well. I want to make room for the complexities and the contradictions within Judas, because I want to make room for the complexities and the contradictions within me too. And all of that raises questions about the truth in Judas' life and also in my life. And truth isn't really truth unless it's lived and experienced truth. And a lot of the time, living and experienced truth means having an argument within ourselves. Will we be true to ourselves? Will we be true to what we really know? Or will we turn away from that truth? Will we betray ourselves? And interestingly, the answer to that question is, well, yes and yes. It's not one or the other, it's both. It was for Judas, it was for Peter when the cock crowed. And it was as well for the disciples when they abandoned Jesus on the cross. And it is for me, and I guess it is sometimes for you as well. Sometimes we lose the argument within ourselves. And I think that's what's happening in this passage in John's Gospel. Judas is losing the argument within himself for his own integrity. And who amongst us doesn't have some idea what that feels like. Haven't there been times when we've turned away from truth within us and betrayed ourselves? And you see, self-betrayal is always the first betrayal. Before we betray others, we first betray ourselves. We betray the truth that we know deep down. Judas' self-betrayal precedes his betrayal of Jesus. And these betrayals, they're not sort of juicy, headline-grabbing stuff. Most of the time, they're not intentional or malicious. They happen in subtle, little ways. We get scared or frustrated or tired. We doubt ourselves. We become disillusioned or despairing. We feel overwhelmed and powerless. We act out our past hurts and wounds and shame or guilt. We get in a hurry. We become impatient. We take shortcuts. We feel alone or isolated or overlooked or marginalised. And so we lose our sense of meaning and purpose. We settle and sell ourselves short. We forget our values. We forget what really, really matters. We blame others instead of taking responsibility for ourselves. We give up on ourselves, on each other, and on the argument itself. We lose the argument within ourselves in all sorts of different ways, and when we do, we betray. I wonder in what ways you might have sometimes lost the argument for your own integrity. What truth between you or me is getting betrayed today? How does that feel? Well, of course, it feels pretty bad. For Judas, it was more than he could live with, and that's why he goes off and hangs himself. What Judas couldn't see, and what I think you and I need to understand, is that it feels bad because that's not who we really are. The bad feeling of our betrayals is in a strange way our teacher, our guide, because it reminds us of the truth that still lives within us, the truth that still waits to be given expression. So what if instead of making a judgment or a conclusion about how bad our betrayals feel, what if we allowed those feelings to call us back to who we really, really can be, to who God means us to be? Our hymn for today is Amazing Grace, and may God's peace go with you.